Thank you so much for allowing me into your classroom. I really, really enjoyed getting to know your students and some of your teaching style. Can you just start by sharing how you feel that the lesson went?
The lesson was good, went pretty well than what I'd expected. The students were focused. We were we started the lesson by reviewing um, the periodic table. Um, they had to um, uh, draw protons, neutrons, and electrons, and practice counting the atomic number, and the valence electrons followed with that activity. Um, the answers gave me a chance to um, reinforce some of the concepts that we had studied in class, that were presented in class, and then we could move on to the actual lesson.
I noted a lot throughout your observation how focused you are on getting to know your students and recognizing sort of what motivates them to produce good work for you, and that their performance really was dependent on how you were engaging with them. What happened during the lesson that maybe you didn't expect, and then how did you adjust to compensate for that?
Um, so one of the concepts that the lesson was on ionic bonding, and ionic bonding is where the atoms gives away electrons and the other atom takes electrons. And for some of them, uh, well, chemistry in general is a very abstract concept. So, uh, and atoms are something that we're never going to see. So, modeling it or making it making a reference to a real life example becomes very essential in these topics. So so when I saw that they were having some difficulty with that, I had to bring in an example of a student where they like to go and get things from they like to go buy snacks from the commons. So I had to use two students as examples, where one is kind enough to share or give his dollar to the other student, and reach a situation where that modeled an ionic bond.
Right.
So.
And actually, I noted that as well, that you used real life scenarios
Yeah.
To sort of prove the abstract model of the chemistry and the reaction of what's happening with the elements. I also noted in my observation that you were very successful and focused on differentiation within your class and how you presented the material. Can you just share a little bit about the different means that you've used to assess them and to see what they're learning?
So again, because chemistry is so abstract, doing hands-on activities is something that I have to go back to, or I use in the class. When we learned about the periodic table, the elements, I used samples of the elements on the periodic table. So if it was copper, which is a metal, I had samples of copper wire, copper utensils. Similarly for silver, gold, um, a chalk for calcium. So they could see an example of the element. Some of them we just cannot, because some are just gases.
Sure.
But when they saw those concrete examples, they could see the properties of those elements more clearly.
Right, and I come as an outsider that's not overly familiar with chemistry. I did like how you use visual aids and use a tactile approach, and I like the movement, that the students weren't sitting the whole time in the classroom, that they were able to up and move about to work on different projects at different times. How does the IEP guide your instruction? I know that your entire room is full of students with IEPs. So how does that drive your instruction and your strategies or modifications?
So when I look at the IEPs of the students and their needs, the one need that is glaring is that they cannot concentrate on one activity for a long time. So there needs to be a variety, and then looking at their interests. We just concluded the periodic table lesson, if you may, by the students created or designed a rap song, which they're constantly listening to music, or that's their interest.
Yeah.
So that was, so using their interest and their needs, combining both of them to create the lesson is one of the techniques that I use.
Yeah, I definitely saw evidence of you using multiple techniques and trying to hit their different intelligences. And still, I think that there's room for growth in some of their behaviors. The structure of your room was such that they came in and they put their cell phones away, which is obviously a school-wide initiative. And I really thought that they respected you in that. I've seen many of those students in other settings where they wouldn't necessarily do what the teacher asked. And so I certainly appreciated that you have built that level of respect and rapport with your students. And the foundation is totally there. So moving forward, I think the best way that we could support you would be to enhance a behavior. I noticed that you had a behavioral plan for them. I think if we can create a system where it's more visual and they're working towards something specific as a group, so that maybe they're engaged for longer periods of time. I know within that 50-minute period, you were able to change the lesson in 3 different directions. You had multiple activities going on so that they stayed engaged. But if we could try to expand their attention for longer periods of time, you had noted that you didn't get through everything you wanted to that period. And I think it was really because of some of the behaviors that you had to keep circling back. So if together we can work on a behavioral plan that we identify exactly what your expectations are and they work towards something in terms of a token economy, I think that would really help. But overall, I was so impressed by how you engage the students and your classroom strategies and your management of them. Before they can learn chemistry, obviously you have to have all of that in place. And as a special educator, I certainly admired that about you. So thank you so much for allowing me into your room, and I'm really looking forward to following your classes' movement throughout the rest of the school year. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and you're welcome to come in anytime.
Thank you.